Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Justice and Pieces guest speaker series. Today, we are joined from Calgary, Charles Osuji, and really excited to talk to you, Charles, about your career and your path and the trajectory that you're on. And Charles has won a number of different awards, and certainly we can talk about that. But Charles, maybe first of all, maybe you can do certainly a better job there, telling us a little bit more about yourself and your practice and how you got into law.
Beautiful. John, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. All the way from Toronto. Here I am. Sharing my story. I appreciate it. Well, I came here 2011 as a young lawyer. I had only practiced in Nigeria for about 11 months, so I was quite fresh. It happened that I have family here, family members, so I decided to join them. When I came over, I started looking at the processes for qualifying as a lawyer here. I got in touch with NCA. NCA is a body that caters to the licensing of internationally trained lawyers. I registered with them. They gave me 5 courses to write. I passed those 5 courses, and the next step was for me to secure articles, internship. That was when I met Mr. Smith, and that was in 2013. I joined him as an RFA student, and then I became a lawyer in Alberta in 2014. Shortly thereafter, I bought into the partnership in the firm and then took over the firm from him late 2017. Then the firm had about 5 people or so, 2 lawyers, and now there's about 20 of us in the last 4 years. We've grown exponentially. We have recently purchased a bigger office building a few minutes away. We'll be moving in sometime in the summer. And that is another room for growth for sure, because there's going to be definitely more chairs to fill.
Yeah, like how you say that all very, very matter of factly, and but each step of that journey is a huge
Yeah.
process there, and then maybe we can kind of go through them one by one here with you. I mean, first of all, coming to Canada in of itself, right? I mean, you were just saying you were just starting in Nigeria. What was, I mean, that like in terms of making a transition? And we were just joking about the weather being pretty good right
Right.
now before we
Right.
started, but how did you kind of adjust to life in Canada there? I mean, it's just over 10 years now, right? I mean, what was
Right.
that like?
It was daunting and difficult. Most importantly, or rather, most critically, there's a lot of apprehension, a lot of uncertainty, right, associated with that transition from the known to the unknown. And coming to Canada, you would hear all sorts of opinions. People are projecting their their horror stories on you. You hear people say, Charles, a judge will never understand your accent. There's no way you're going to be a lawyer in Canada. You need to go to school to start all over. You need to do another 5 years, another 10 years. You see professionals that come here, they're taxi drivers. Not that I have anything against taxi drivers, but they decided not to pursue their professions or vocations because of certain situations. So I had all of that projected on me, family members, friends, acquaintances. But I ended up I decided that all of what I heard would be fire under my belly, to make sure that I justified my transition from the known to unknown. So what I did was to connect with my local community, the Nigerian community professionals, connected to the immigrant community by volunteering with CRIAC, Calgary Regional Immigrant Employment Council, and of course, challenging the exams that I just mentioned. I had to be, uh, I was very, very determined to make sense out of my journey. I come from a family of very successful professionals who were my role models growing up. So there wasn't any plan B for me but to, to succeed. And I had that mindset getting into the country. And I hustled, did all kinds of survival jobs. There was a time I was sleeping only twice a week because I had 3 jobs going at a time, morning shift, afternoon shift, and night shift. I had no car, so I had to utilize the public transit. Sometimes, I will pass out on the train and I wake up at some other destination. So that was my journey for the first few months. But I had a goal in mind, and the goal was to be a lawyer. So I was very focused on that goal. Every acquaintances that I made, all the books that I read, the connections that I made, all were geared towards that goal. And when I had the opportunity of buying out the firm, I knew what the other side looked like. I knew what the hustle was like. So I vowed to make sense out of the opportunity. And here we are today.
Yeah, and quite the journey there. I mean,
Right.
to share obviously the three jobs there, and passing it on the train, and looking at where you are. I mean, and it's not like I'm talking to you in your 60s or something, and it happened
Yep.
30 years later. I mean, this is
Yeah.
happening in a 10-year time period.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to you mentioned the NCAs, and I think I have students who are going through that process, and certainly it's very daunting in of itself. I think you mentioned
Right.
5 exams to do. How
Right.
did you kind of adjust to what you were, in terms of practice, let's say back in Nigeria there, and now looking at these Canadian challenge exams? What did you find help you get through that? You mentioned the community itself and having supports. What can you share with people that are going through that process, the importance of getting through that, and getting that motivation to, as you said, succeed and become a lawyer here?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, John, I must mention that I have the unique advantage of having been trained in Nigeria. The Nigerian system of training lawyers is off the roof. The idea of looking at your materials in the exam hall, we didn't even know that existed, the open book system. When I came here and they told me that NCA exams were open book, I thought it was a joke. I read as if it was closed book. In fact, I was struggling to open my books in the exam hall because I thought that would be the ultimate test. Anyhow, so coming from Nigeria, where the law exams were all written in 1 week, back to back, you were required to memorize over 200, 300 cases per subject. So the system was uh, quite overwhelming in terms of the learning system. Coming here was easy, challenging the NCA exams. To be very honest, they were the easiest exam I've ever written. First of all, the curriculum is very clear, what was expected, and you had the books in the exam hall. I mean, how could you go wrong? So long as you understood the questions, right? So the tips I would share would be number one, don't underestimate the NCAs, as much as the open book system. Make sure that you dedicate your time learning and studying those courses. I read those materials like 4 or 5 times over. Um, that is one. Number two, there's a unique challenge to newcomers in terms of survival, right? Sometimes, on the one hand, you want to survive, you want to pay your rent and start sending money home. On the other hand, you need some time away from work to focus on the exams. What I would recommend to people, depending on where you are in life, I mean, if you're coming here with 5 kids, that is a different ballgame altogether. But depending on where you are in life, a lot of sacrifice has to be made in terms of taking time away to focus on NCA, get that out of the way. And if one can write everything in 2 sittings, in 3 sittings within a year, that would be perfect so that the person can advance in their career. Number three, have a community. When people come here, they should always, reach out to others that have done it before. Reach out to Facebook, WhatsApp, whatever community that you have for people writing the exams. That will definitely make a lot of difference. Number four, I also benefited from the fact that the Nigerian legal system is not so different from the Canadian legal system because of our historical antecedents. We're all colonized by Britain. Some of the cases we studied back in law school were the cases that we looked at here. So there was some commonality in terms of the content and the substance of what was taught. That did help.
And so you went through that process there. You passed all the exams, and then
Yes.
the next step is articling. Now, What was that like? I mean, I think, certainly those in Ontario or in Alberta or anywhere in Canada that have to go through a similar process, they have the benefit of, we went to school with people, you kind of know a little bit of how
Mm.
everything works, and you may be, have the advantage of knowing lawyers and, maybe your family or work in a law firm or something like that. How did you find getting through that process, and what was the experience like for you? And again, comparing it to what you were doing in Nigeria versus the articling step here and being in a law firm here in Canada?
That's a wonderful question, John. It seemed impossible to find articles because let's unpack this. You're coming from a foreign country. Many people here don't even know of NCA, let alone your university, and you have an accent. You don't know anyone other than family. It's so difficult to get my leg in the door or my foot in the door. It was difficult to get an interview. In fact, uh, this was my first and only interview. This firm, I recall applying to volunteer in certain organizations and they wouldn't even acknowledge my application. So it was so hard to get in. I didn't have that network. But what I did was to gradually expand my network from my local community, from the few Nigerian lawyers that I knew. I connected to them, and then through them, I connected to others. I also connected to the mentoring organization I mentioned, and I was connected to the executive director who connected me to other people. Through a connection that led to another connection, I met Mr. Smith. In fact, he was looking for one student and he had interviewed her and made an offer to her. But before making the offer to her, Mr. Smith had invited me for a chat. So he decided to honor that invitation. And I understand from him that I blew his mind away when we met. And he ended up hiring two students, and that was how I got the chance. I wouldn't have gotten here if I had not developed those connections. Uh, so for newcomers, reach out, volunteer, get your name out there, get to go beyond your tribe, right? Many people come here, they want to circle around the people that look like them or people that sound like them. It is advantageous, but not so much. In the larger scheme of things, go beyond your community by way of volunteering and connecting with people. And ultimately, you end up having people that will vouch for you in your absence. Through my volunteering um, opportunities, I was able to make an impression on certain people. And when the opportunity to interview with Mr. Smith came about, these people spoke highly of me, and Mr. Smith relied on their representations to give me a shot.
And is it as simple there as going out and making those connections, right? I mean, a lot of people are especially right now with restrictions, and it's not as easy as having a cup of coffee, as you mentioned. What can you share in terms of people maybe a little apprehensive, whether it's they're used to, you say the tribe or their community group, in expanding their horizons? What can you share in terms of kind of getting over that fear or that apprehension of the unknown, as you phrased it at the beginning, in approaching people and expanding your network? I mean, what can you share in terms of getting connected with those people?
Absolutely. Well, I tell people that being courageous is making decisions despite being afraid, not in the absence of fear, right? Um, you come here, there's so many barriers. If you want to focus on the barriers, you're not going to get ahead. Um, my I've had to give so many people opportunities after joining the firm. I've had at least maybe 8 to 10 lawyers who became admitted to the bar through me in the last few years. And I can tell you the majority of those that got articles in my firm came in through volunteering. And this is a tip some of your students and people listening should take advantage of. Given the disadvantage of not going to school here and not having those organic connections growing up here, you would have to you're looking for an opportunity to tell people that you are actually worth it, you're actually capable, you're actually competent. And what some of us are looking for is just that one opportunity to get our foot in the door. And the easiest way of getting through to the door would be by volunteering. Number one, the firm does not have any financial obligation on the student, on the volunteer. But through volunteering, the student is able to showcase their competence. And this has happened to me. I'm a living example because I've hired at least 5 people in the last 3 years because they came in as volunteers. And I was like, wow, this person is good. This person knows what they do. Their work ethics, they're very disciplined, they're very focused. And I give them the opportunity. So fear doesn't exist. The best things that have happened to me were out of decisions that I made, ignoring how afraid I was. For instance, taking over the firm, I was what, 28? I was barely 4 or 5 years in the country. And here I was grappling with the opportunity of owning a law firm and having to deal with overhead of over 50K a month. I was very afraid. I wanted to run away from that opportunity. I wanted to say no to it, but I ended up going back to my tribe, going back to my mentors, my older siblings, and I, you know, relayed the proposal or the proposition to them, and they could see the future, and categorically recommended that I follow through on it. So the fear is there, but it doesn't exist. The There is beauty on the other side of fear, and also have people that uh, whose eyes lit up when you walk into the room, people that support you, people that are willing to hold you by the hand and lead you to, throughout your professional journey. Have those people around you so that when you become afraid, when you think that the world is coming to an end and there's no way forward, you go back to those resources for some support.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big move there. I mean, let's talk about that, right? I mean, how did that opportunity kind of come up? And you mentioned a little bit about the thought process there, but kind of what ultimately made you go ahead, and how was that first initial period? I mean, both being, first of all, relatively new in the practice of law, right, as well as being relatively new in the country in
Right.
2017. How was tell us a little bit more about the decision making process, but what was the results there in the first few months or the first year? And did you ever think, oh, wow, I didn't really anticipate it's going to be so much of a demand? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So I wasn't looking forward to the opportunity. In fact, I just wanted to article and do my thing. Mr. Smith was actually having a conversation with some other person who was negotiating the purchase of the firm. I remember this individual taking me out for dinner and assuring me that there was a position for me in the firm, that he had heard so much about my work ethics that he would like to continue. He would like me to continue with the firm, and I was excited. I wasn't going to lose my opportunity. It appears that a few months down the road, the conversation between this individual and Mr. Smith fell apart. And Mr. Smith and I came to me with a proposal whether I was interested, and I told him no, I was not interested. And I told him how I was not ready, I was still fresh, and he could understand it because at this point, over 85% of the clients in the firm belonged to me. I had hustled my way into people's hearts. I was working 7 days a week. I was bringing a lot of work and a lot of money to the firm. So to Mr. Smith, the conversation was very natural, and I was gonna be the one to take over the project for him. Then I ended up talking to a few people. Yeah, I ended up talking to a few people, including my mentors, and they saw the opportunity, understood the uh, the value in it, and encouraged me to go for it. I recall the I didn't jump right on it. I gave myself another. So what I did was I now bought into the partnership for a year. That way, I would have an intimate understanding of the business side of it, not just the practice. I needed to know where to make changes. And Mr. Smith is a good man. He's an amazing man. However, when you practice for like 35, 40 years, you lose the fire in your belly, right? Mr. Smith was just, not focusing so much on the business side of things. So I had a year to really monitor the cash flow, client management, practice management, and the business aspect of the practice until I made up my mind to take over the firm. And I remember the first week, I was constantly looking at the bank account every 2 hours. I was constantly looking at the bank account for a whole year. I didn't pay myself a dime. I stayed away from any form of salary because I wanted to have some backup, I wanted to have some savings. It was constantly, you know, being on edge. What's going to happen next? Okay, this month is good. What about next month? Is this was going to be as good? Um, but I realized that I exceeded all expectations, including mine, month to month. And at the end of the year, I doubled the cash flow in the business. In 3, 4 years, I more or less quadrupled it. So I don't know what I could attribute to, but I can tell you that a lot has to do with just being kind to the people working with me, to my clients, being human. The first thing I did was to give everybody a raise, even though I wasn't paying myself anything, just to make them understand that the success of the firm is their success. I made them feel personally invested in the success of the firm. And then we started cleaning up process, started branding, putting my name out there, and then the awards started trickling in, and reputation started building, and here we are today.
Yeah, I mean, so you would describe certainly your practice. They're very entrepreneurial, um, and diverse, and certainly being kind there, right? And you stress the importance of that. And sometimes, in the legal field, sometimes that gets lost, right? So maybe you could tell us more about, from 2017 to today. I mean, as well, there was another big period of growth, as you said, doubled and tripled and quadrupled, and you went from 5 to 20 lawyers. I mean, how does that all happen so quickly? And maybe tell us a little bit more about that process and your firm.
You know, sometimes you never know what you have until you're given an opportunity to survive. When I took over the firm, the survival mode in me kicked in. The same young Black boy that was working 3 jobs, 4 jobs, not sleeping twice a week. That same beast awoke, I guess. And then I started focusing on providing quality services to the client. I just knew that uh, the best way to brand and market yourself is to do good work. Because it doesn't matter how you sound or where you come from. If you do good work, people will come back again and again. People will patronize you. It's just the human nature. Um, and I focused on that, a lot of professional development, and then I started investing in younger lawyers instead of taking on older lawyers. I started investing in younger lawyers, mentoring them, learning along the way. Then I also spent a lot of money on branding. I remember spending almost 30 grand on just the website. People thought I was crazy, but I knew what I was doing. I was building a foundation for what I'm building for the future. So built that. I had one of the best website development firms in the country build a website. And then the awards started coming because people started paying attention to what we're doing, and the awards started coming in. My story, got viral, and that attracted a lot of attention to the firm. And most importantly, John, I have the blessings of Mr. Smith. I couldn't tell you how important that is. You're taking over from someone else, or you're working with a partner. You want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. You want to make sure that he's approving of all the choices that you're making. So Mr. Smith gave me the support that I needed, which is what many young lawyers don't have. They don't have the support of mentors, strong support. So I have that, and I continue to have that. Mr. Smith is right by my side every step of the way. He's retired, but he comes here every week. If there is trash to be picked up by the backyard. He comes and picks them up. If there is a broken door, he comes to fix it. So we have that relationship, and it's very, very. It is what's the word? It feels very good to know that you have someone that is there to catch you if you fall or before you fall. Someone that provides you with that solid support. That way, I'm able to make bold decisions. I'm able to make bold moves. Um, I was telling you how we recently purchased a commercial building that is 5 times bigger than where we currently are. To me, that is a bold move. It's very similar to the move of buying the firm. But I look around me, I see a lot of people supporting me, a lot of people applauding me, and cheering me on in my journey. So that is very helpful.
Yeah, it's almost it's like a sitcom, right? You couldn't be any more opposite, right? I mean, he's been practicing longer than you were alive,
Yeah,
and you're coming from Nigeria here. I mean,
yeah.
how was that in terms of that connection there? I mean, you're stressing the importance of mentorship, and
Mhm.
how does that play a role? I mean, certainly a tremendous role there, but how did that all work out with you in terms of someone that do they quite understand who I am and the things I'm doing, and
Right,
being there to say no, keep going, Charles, and giving you that guidance and
right.
motivation.
I think I'm very, very blessed to have someone like Mr. Smith in my corner, which is very rare. Many a time you have a newcomer coming to the country, the folks here don't want to have anything to do with either because they are not sure where they went to school, they're not sure their story, they would rather gravitate towards the familiar, right? But Mr. Smith is colorblind. He's probably 45 years older than I am, and here we are, or here we were partners running a law firm together. In my interview with him, I think I connected with him on the fact that we're both raised in a small town. He was a teacher in his other life, and my dad was a teacher as well. I think we connected on that. And he's a Christian, I'm a Christian. We connected on those elements. But ultimately, it was just him not caring what I looked like, not caring my journey, seeing the fire in my eyes, knowing that, this, I told him that I had not had any single invitation for interview. He couldn't believe it. I also told him that I was top of my class, but still, that has not made any difference in my article search. So that really um, got to him, and he decided to give me a shot. Mind you, at this point, he was already working with another Nigerian lawyer who had opened the doors, figuratively speaking, by showing Mr. Smith that he was a hard worker and people that look like him work hard. People that come from where he came from work hard. So that was also very helpful. And then over time, Mr. Smith relied heavily on me. I brought in the business acumen and he brought in the connections. And then when I took over the firm, it was a very seamless transition. I call him my Canadian father. It's where he is.
Well, that's amazing, and however, I mean, you mentioned that you're lucky, and it's not very common to be blessed and have a situation like that. But going back even to what you just mentioned there, it was certainly probably very discouraging. Nobody's even
Yeah,
contacting you, not let alone that you're getting an interview and they're like, sorry, we went with
yeah.
somebody else. I mean, what could you share? Because I mean, there are people, and disproportionately maybe people of color, people from different backgrounds, people other in terms of groups there, disadvantaged groups, and certainly people going through the NCAA process, because it's, again, we keep talking about this great unknown, right? They don't know where you went to school, or what was it like, or what your credentials are, your background, or what can you share in terms of that, in terms of those who are discouraged right now, that are going through those processes of kind of powering through it, and keep encouraged. I mean, in the face of, especially with COVID adding another thing, right? I mean,
Right, right.
what can you share about that?
Well, what I can tell these folks is the dots will soon connect. It's just a matter of time. Canada is a good place. Ultimately, um, your ultimately a competence will shine through. You just need an opportunity. That's what many people are looking for, just an opportunity to showcase what they truly bring to the table. They say it only takes darkness for the stars to shine, right? Um, if you look at my website, I'm telling a story. I have most of the lawyers are internationally trained, went through NCA. Most of them are people from different walks of life. I have Japanese, I have Korean, I have Indian, I have uh, French, Cameroonian, all sorts of people. And here we are with very good reputation, providing value to our clients, making progress on our files, helping people go from point A to point B. This is my way of telling the world, look, there's so much internationally trained professionals bring to the table. Just give them a shot, right? Just give them an opportunity, give them the benefit of the doubt. They will work harder to impress themselves and impress you. So, I mean, this is my way of opening the doors, as it were, for others coming after me, that your journey is no different from my journey. I did it all. I was in the trenches, and when the opportunity came, I took advantage of it. What I must mention, though, John, is they say luck is when opportunity meets preparation. You must be prepared. If you're not prepared, the opportunity will come and disappear without you even knowing it, right? You must be prepared. When I was writing my NCA, I wasn't reading those courses just for NCA. I knew I needed to work 110% harder than the next person to get ahead. I read those materials 5 times. I went beyond the scope of the curriculum. I wanted to understand the Canadian system. And the moment I started my articles, it became so clear that I was prepared. And Mr. Smith immediately gravitated towards me. And he wouldn't make any decisions in a file without asking you, have you spoken to Charles? What does Charles think about this strategy? Right? So the emphasis on preparation, regardless of where you are in your journey, even if you're looking for articles. Before I started my bar exams, I had read the materials 3 times before I even started the bar exams. Because I started with the firm as a paralegal for 3 months and then started my articles. In those 3 months, I was reading all night, preparing for the exams I've never registered for. Preparation, preparation, preparation. That is how you can get ahead, because without preparation, you're going to meet wonderful people. You're going to run into wonderful opportunities, but you cannot convert them. They will just disappear.
I think you said somewhere, I think I watched an interview. I think you have to be a good person before you can be a good lawyer.
Yes.
And we're talking about all this volunteering you're also doing and continuing to do in mentorship and providing opportunities. Can you maybe expand on that and why that sometimes is missed, right? I mean, people are so busy trying to capture like understanding the law or understanding the practice, but why do you sort of stand behind that? And certainly it's given you tremendous success, but what can you share more about it?
Absolutely. I mean, over time, your idea of success metamorphoses, right? It changes. To me, success is being a part of someone else's success story. That is success to me at this point. I could easily remain in this building and continue with my 20-member firm. I don't think that is enough. I think that is only giving 20 people opportunity. I could give 40 people opportunity, and this is the motivation for a bigger space. At the end of the day, kindness is underrated, to be very honest. And as you rightly pointed out, John, at the beginning of our conversation, in this profession, kindness seems to be lost. I've had people tell me how their principals yell at them. These are Arkansas students, principals yell at them. I've had principals tell their students, you're never going to be a good lawyer. This is not for you. I've also seen lawyers practice year after year, and they have not mentored a single article student. And to me, that makes no sense. I've only practiced for 7, 8 years, and I've had at least 10 lawyers got called to the bar. And I have, as you speak, I have 3 volunteers in the basement, in that some tiny corner, doing some research. And I know how it feels to give people a head start, especially for newcomers. You come here, you have no access to the lawyers here. There's no access whatsoever. The first time I actually got into a law office was when I was interviewed by Mr. Smith. There was no access otherwise. So kindness is very important. Kindness is the quality that is going to sustain your practice. Giving back to the community, to me, is a no-brainer. I've come so far because of strangers that didn't know who I was. Give me a shot. The least I owe to myself and to my community is to give back, either by maintaining a good name, which is very important. You maintain a good name, people that come after you do get benefit of the doubt. Secondly, allow people to come around, even if it's one day, even if it's 2 days. They have that experience on their resume. It bolsters their confidence. When they're meeting with a new lawyer, they can say, "Oh, I did some work with Osuji Smith," and they have that direct firsthand understanding of what the legal system here is. And nothing gives me more joy than watch other people grow under me and become better professionals. That's why I said success as a lawyer begins from being a good person first.
And that's great there, and certainly going forward, right? I mean, no, as well, it's certainly at this time, one of the themes there, Black History Month, February and forever. What more in terms of opening some more doors? Now you're mentioning, look, come into my office, do a little bit. What more can be done so that you're facing these barriers, right? I mean, you're saying you never even stepped into a law office till you had an interview.
Yeah.
How do we break down some of those barriers or other barriers that it helps level the playing field in terms of, we're looking at, in terms of equity initiatives and inclusion? What more can be done?
Absolutely. There's plenty of options. Number one, for mid-sized firms like mine, give newcomers an opportunity, not just volunteer, convert them into articles. Number two, take advantage of an opportunity like this, telling my story. I'm probably reaching an audience I've never reached before by being on your show. And when people hear these stories, they get motivated. The move from one country to the other is more psychological than it is physical. And sometimes what people want to know or see is success. They want to know that someone has followed this journey to a successful conclusion. That's what they need to know, to be motivated to work harder and be hopeful. So that is that. Thirdly, I think on a higher level, law firms, institutions should be more, they should walk the talk when it comes to diversity, not just talk about it for the heck of it. Diversity is giving people a real chance of success, of progress. Like I take you back again to my website. To me, that is true diversity, though in a small scale, but it's true diversity. That is me walking the walk, not just talking the talk when it comes to giving people that don't even look like myself an opportunity. Then for people like me, be kind to yourself in your journey. Sometimes it might take you a year to find articles, it might take you 6 months to find articles, it might take 2 months to find articles. As long as you're prepared, the dots will soon connect. And when they do connect, you'll be very grateful that you went through the growth process. If I didn't go through the growth process, hustling in warehouses, pick up garbage and flip burgers in A&W, I wouldn't appreciate what I have today, and I would appreciate the need to give back, right? If I had everything handed over to me, I probably don't even find any value in having a conversation with you today. I wouldn't find any value in telling my stories or putting myself out there or giving people the opportunity. So learn to dance in the rain. In the meantime, the journey might seem a bit tough, but so long as you're prepared and you are mindful and open to opportunities and expanding your connections on a daily basis, and most importantly, keeping a good name, because you know because of our vulnerabilities, if you're found wanting in terms of integrity, whatever opportunity you have disappears overnight.
Now you've achieved so much success there. I mean, I know the number of awards you'd mentioned that they kept pouring in. Is there anyone in particular or anything that, when you received it, you thought like, wow, like I've made it. I'm being recognized here. And how do they all mean to you in terms of all the recognition you've been getting?
Thank you. It's humbling, but they're all different awards. I have award from the Immigrant Services category under Achievement Under 35. To me, that is a recognition of what I'm bringing to the table as an immigrant. Then I have the Best Lawyers, which is actually a vote by fellow lawyers in Calgary. Um, Again, that's a recognition by my peers. Then there is the Top 25, which is across Canada, a vote as well, but not just lawyers, but non-lawyers. And I think there's about 25 other awards. Very humbling. I think each award is a recognition of what we're bringing to the table, not just me, but what I represent, which is an internationally trained lawyer, braving all odds to make a name for themselves here.
And so you mentioned the bigger space that you're going to be moving into and continuing to build on your success. So what's next, right? I mean, in terms of growth and what you hope, in terms of what does success mean to you in terms of, do you think you'll ever be satisfied? And when you go from there, you're going to say, well, now I want to get into one of those towers, or what do you think? What's coming up for you, Charles?
Honestly, John, based on my journey so far, I realized that I couldn't have imagined where I am today. So why do I bother myself thinking about 10 years from now? It's an exercise in fertility as far as I'm concerned. However, I take each day that comes, right? Okay, we're moving into a new building. There is going to be about 30, 35 offices in that new building. What am I going to do with it? If the opportunity comes, I might expand to another city. I'm thinking of Vancouver. But these things change, right? The business of law is so dynamic and so fluid. Things change in terms of regulation. Things change in terms of practice areas. Today, employment practice might be the best thing that happened after sliced bread. And then there's this Supreme Court decision that kind of changes everything, and then you gravitate and segue into immigration, or segue into business. So it's so hard to make very long-term plans in the business of running a firm. But I'm very mindful of opportunities as they arise on a daily basis, and I adjust accordingly as I go.
So thank you, Charles, for sharing all of that. It's such an incredible journey, and it's such a short, like I said, 10 years ago, you were just getting to Canada, right? You weren't even going through the NCA process, right? I mean, and then look at where you are 10 years later. And I think, especially because I do tend to have students from all over the world that kind of come here and they don't know what to expect. It's such a great story to hear. And I'm certainly going to share with them that some of that are going through the NCA process, that look at what was accomplished here. And it's really inspiring, I think, for people to hear and to see people who have similar backgrounds or being immigrants, as you mentioned that award there, because that gives them that motivation, right? But yes, he can do it, I can do it too, yes. Right? And so thanks so much for sharing all that. I was wondering if you have any final words of wisdom for anyone listening there, I mean, who are either new to getting into law or struggling, as we've shared quite a lot there about kind of through whatever stage they're at in terms of finding that success in the future. And thanks so much again for joining us.
Appreciate it, John. Well, all I can say is, and I've been saying that, be kind to yourself in your journey, be prepared, have faith in your ability to succeed is very, very important, and have a strong tribe of supporters around you, because it's very important. This journey, there's a lot of ups and downs. Today you feel that coming to Canada was the worst decision. Tomorrow you feel like it's the best decision. Have people around you and connect to People like myself, people that you look up to, people that you think are ahead of you in the journey. Once you do that, and make sure the connection is genuine and sincere. Many people, they reach out, and the very first thing that they say is, "This is what I need from this relationship." Make sure that you're connecting on a very sincere level. You're connecting to understand their journey and to add one or two tips to your own journey. Overall, the dots will connect, and I'm a living example.
Perfect. So thanks once again, and I wish you all the best and continued success, and good luck, I guess, on that transition there into the new office space. I don't know how long it's going to take to get up and running, but
Right.
thanks again, Charles, and take care, everyone.
Thank you, John.